Hi, Amber. I'm so excited to hang with you this morning and get to hear all about what's going on in your life and your biz. I know you're a mommy and a businesswoman, just like me, so we can relate. But for those who maybe are not following you or don't know exactly what you do or have been wanting to catch up with your latest projects, can you give us a little bit of a whirl on who you are, what you do in the world, what your mission, what your value, what your purpose is all about?
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here too. This is a ton of fun. I love what you've got going on. I can be found at niceops.com, niceops.com, where I partner with the smartest, of course, nicest CEOs and business owners to help them really do business better. And it's really about, right, those operations, nice ops, but end to end thinking about how people lead in their businesses through to how everything gets done, from building a team, systems, a little bit of time man. But I sometimes like, oh, should we talk about that? But new level, new devil. Every time, like in life, new baby, reset routine. In business, same thing. New business baby, reset and juggle routines. But as long as you go into it with the right mindset and the right frame of mind, it all sort of works out, I find. So sometimes not as fast as we want. But I love partnering with business owners on how they can do business better by getting some of these operational elements in place. And ultimately, it's all that stuff that fuels and makes sure we can really live that life that we want.
Yeah, and I love it because it's like whatever level you're at is the level where you need appropriate support and systems, whether it's just, your basic filing system or your basic bookkeeping system or, your own way of organizing your papers. And then as you expand, right, there's like you said, the next level stuff, and it goes and goes and goes. But I think what your work is all about is like so important because it's the foundation for business. And it's also sometimes the stuff that, those of us who are creatives or like visionaries, which I know you are as well. But, it's like that's the stuff that falls through the cracks. And certainly the stuff that we get lots of blocks around and feel like, God, the last thing I can speak for myself. The last thing I want to do is be thinking about systems and organization and that kind of stuff. Although as we expand, it's essential,
Right.
and if we can get those things in place even before we expand, when we're starting off from the beginning, even the better. So I just love it. And I know you're a mom too, and you're juggling a lot.
Oh my gosh. Are we ever? Yeah, I have three girls, a 15-year-old, a
Oh no.
3-year-old, and a 5-month-old.
We need to have a whole nother conversation about the girls, because eventually I know I'm going to write a book on raising girls. It's like in my future. I'm already visioning it. But man, isn't it a trip raising daughters?
It's on one end, it's the coolest experience, like raising them and seeing truly my husband interact with them and like, hey, print, like all the princess stuff, which he's totally into and does all the time now. And versus my 15-year-old. And then it's like, it is hit sophomore year
Oh
was the
my
year
God.
that like, oh my gosh, we have a teenager and
Can
there
I
are
tell you
boys
something
and there's
crazy though? Can I tell you something crazy talking about organization? Yesterday, I was cleaning out my garage. This is an ongoing project. In anticipation of this annual big holiday party that we have. We always have a few months of like work because all year long we load up the garage in the back house, and then about 3 months before the party we start unloading it and going through boxes. And so eventually this my system is going to get better. But all this to be said, I'm in the garage, I'm going through all these boxes and I'm just trying to purge and file and sort things, and I land upon my memorabilia, from being a teenager. And my little frightening journal of when I was 15, talking about my boyfriend. Oh my God, I was freaking out reading it. I was like, oh no, I hope my daughter is not like me.
right. And even if they're not exactly like you, it's like a whole different set of challenges, which is what we talked to my daughter about. And again, totally relates to business. Like, don't have my problems, like have different challenges,
Yeah,
because we've been there as a family, done that.
yeah.
Let's try something new.
Yeah, you're like, how about you do the things that I can already tell you how to do really well, and then you can explore and figure
Mess
out,
up on something else.
mess up, have your own difficulties. But how about all the things that I did wrong? I can tell you right now how to avoid them. Wouldn't that be nice?
Exactly.
Anyhow, enough girl talk about girls, although that could be a whole nother conversation. Tell us about, like, how long have you been doing this? Sort of, where did you get started? Was this something that you feel like you were always doing and was, a natural thing that you were going to always create your own business? Or was it like you stumbled upon it? Like, what were your beginnings with it?
Yeah, I definitely did not stumble upon it. I've always sort of known that I was going to be doing my own thing, some way, shape, or form. And for a long time, I had no idea what that would be. And then I thought I knew, but discovered quickly, like, that wasn't quite it. Like, reset, kind of keep moving. I started my career in human resources, and really I was an office manager at a commercial painting company. So I was kind of doing all things operations, anything that wasn't sales or actually painting, I was doing. So I did that, and then I stepped into a role. I manifested this as well when I was in college. I'm like, I want to work for XYZ consulting firm. And I ended up at XYZ consulting firm in my first sort of corporate job through acquisition. I didn't actually apply at the company. I applied in another company. They're like, they're getting bought out by so-and-so. Would you want to join both teams? I'm like, yes, absolutely.
Like, whoa, serendipity. Love
exactly. Like, amazing how that happens. And then I was going to go in to be an office manager there, but they're like, you know HR too? Can you do the HR and all this other operation stuff? Absolutely. And that just sort of grew and grew and grew. And I became the director of operations for this, I think it was about $35 million team.
Wow.
Of a consulting firm, and did a lot of finance, did a lot of HR, just end-to-end operations, really partnering with leaders. And as I was doing all that, really loving it, this is the full story. I'm going to give you the funky details. I thought I was experiencing stress from the job and pressure. So I'm like, okay, I am way too young at 27 to have like heart pains because of my job, chest pains. I'm like, I got to find something different. So I moved on, found a job that was supposed to be a little bit less stress, ended up being so much more stress. But because I didn't care about them as much, I didn't have the love for that company, I sort of like, all right, I'm really going to not let you get to me, and I'm going to start enjoying my life. And I started my MBA program. And as I was going through my MBA program, which was really about connecting with people, it was organization development. And that's all about the people in organizations, right? Because people are what make organizations click. So it was about, some coaching elements, some team development things, variety of things related to that. And I thought, I love the intimacy. I love the coaching. I thought I was going to go down the life coaching track. At the same time, oh my gosh, see, there is a lot here. So I kind of always knew, and I'm generally heading in the right direction.
Here we go.
But I was needing a creative outlet. So I started picking up the camera. More people started asking me to take pictures for them professionally, for their families, for weddings, some boudoir. And okay. So got this business starting. I thought, maybe I can merge life coaching and photography. So as I'm going through because when you come out of a boudoir photo shoot, have you ever done a boudoir photo shoot?
Yes, I have.
The people who walk out of our shoots feel crazy empowered. Like, I am hot stuff. And their husbands, like, they've got new energy, as they should, because we are that smoking ladies. Yes. And here, if nobody's done one, it's highly recommended.
And do it now. Because I go back and I look at that book. It's only like a year or two old, but I look at that book, I'm like, dang,
I do the same thing. Mine's probably 4 or 5 years, maybe more.
It's so funny. My husband was like, I think we should pay for you to get one done every year.
Oh, that's so nice. I love him. And this is a little bit tangential, but when I'm in the shoots taking pictures of these women, because I'm staring deeply at them, like, okay, right shoot, make sure I get the right parts in and most flattering angles.
Yeah.
We are so beautiful.
Yeah.
And people that just walk by or they come into the shoot, I'm not looking at them and thinking about that in that way. But if you really take the time to look at another person, it's amazing. Like, I could see why men love you. Who you are, even though I'm not thinking that way when people are walking in the door.
Well, you can see why men love women. I mean, men are generally visual, at least in that regard.
Yes.
And women are so gorgeous and so diverse and have such beautiful bodies and such beautiful energy and just in that element, and we're feeling sexy and we're feeling empowered and we're feeling safe. Like that when the magic happens. So I totally get that. So I'm with you, my sister. Maybe you'll do me next.
I would totally do that. And actually, I'm getting goosebumps hearing you talk about that, because that's exactly what our clients experience. And that's what I see when I'm on this side of the camera. But as I was taking boudoir photos, I realized, and actually I stuck with boudoir because I didn't like chasing families and children around. We are nice and calm. Most ladies are. So that was a little bit easier and more engaging and fun for me. So I thought I was going to combine those things. And what I realized as I was going through that, as much as I love empowering people to live better lives, right? And working with people to live better lives, I love the business side of it. So now, sort of fast forward in this story, I'm running a company, my boudoir company. I really manage most things, and I'm really sort of stepping into that leadership CEO role more and more. So I'm practicing what I preach. I pivoted away from the life coaching, although of course that comes up in everything. And I really focus on the business. And going back to the garlic and the stress that I'm sorry, I gave away the punchline. The chest pressure that I felt, I found out it was because of an allergy to garlic.
Wow.
So what started it all was just a little bit of a fluke, but it totally set me off on the right path. So God bless garlic.
Hey, I believe you get messages all the time, and sometimes they come in the most unusual forms. So
it's funny, as I'm talking through this, as much as we want certain things to happen, like right now, this is what I'm doing, this is what I want to happen. Yeah.
But we don't necessarily see that all of the steps in the journey are to get us to where we're going to go. And even now, I know, like you and me, we're really excited. We're super happy. We love what we're doing. We feel like we're really arriving and having, really the kind of success that we always imagined we would. But at the same time, it's like, we know there's more to come. Things will change. Things will evolve. And there is that element of like, I always say, this is related to my own spirituality, but like my vision of my life is so small in comparison to what I believe the master plan for my life must be, and the more that I can release the control of that vision, it's more like I have these ideas, I have these things that I'm really excited about, and I'm putting them out there into the world as possibilities, and I'm going to do my part to like take the steps towards that, but then I'm going to release the outcome, because if I hold too tightly, then I may shrink to my full potential, and I think your story really speaks to that, of like just being open to the different paths that life takes you. And so ultimately it took you, so you decided to create your own business.
Yeah, it took me, and I've always known, I left out some stuff. Like I created like a concierge business once that didn't go anywhere. I'm like, maybe I'll be a mystery shopper. That would be fun. Like there was so much random. So until I really got there, I mean, it was, I don't know, it's been years, but
I have one of those stories. I went to law school because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. That's what I thought, I come from this long line of academics, intellectuals, everybody has higher education. I'm a very privileged person. That's what I should do, right? Take advantage of the opportunity to go back to school. But I didn't want to go back to school. I didn't even know what I wanted to do with my life, but I felt that's what I was supposed to do. And that's so much of what I talk about now, is like not the supposed to's or the shoulds or have to's or whatever. It's like, what are you internally motivated to do? Yeah. But I went to law school for 4 years at night, part-time, while I was working a full-time job, because I thought that's what I was supposed to do, even though I knew I never wanted to be a lawyer. And then I got my law degree, sat for the bar, and decided I don't want to practice.
Oh, wow. Man, that was a lot of money invested too.
Well, I figured it out, but and I was working at the time, so I was able to pay for my education. And I still have my JD, and I still have all the experience. I went to an amazing civil rights law school, so I learned so much about my passion, which is about people and equality and different cultures and all that good stuff.
So what I find is, even if we're going through the steps, like I have to do this now, like if I've got a day job, this is what I'm doing, this is what I have to do because I have, this lifestyle I've created that I now have to support, or whatever it is, right? There are these things we have, like I've got my family, that's a have to. It's as much a want to, right, as it is a have to. But even as you go through those have to steps, like things still pop up. So I think, to your point, like bringing it back, like being open to the bigger picture, like staying on track to the vision that you have, doing what you have to do, but leaving the door open for these other possibilities is so critical, because we only know like what we now know, right? So there might be other things that are going to open up and become aware to us as we go. But if we stay aware and know and focused on the vision that we now know, right, we're at least moving forward towards something. And that comes up in happy. That sounds so like meta. Well, the layers.
So deep today. Everybody watching, and did you follow that? Amber McCue is breaking it down.
But it's so true that if you move forward, and happiness psychology supports that if you're moving toward a goal, if you have a purpose, whatever that is, it's ultimately you're going to realize happiness. Those are the happiest people who are moving toward a goal. So whatever it is, because as much as we're like looking forward and we're going to live this life down the road and in the future, right, there's a life now that you should really be happy living in, right? So what's that look like too?
Absolutely. Be happy in the present, and then have something really exciting that you're working on in the near future and then in the long term. And I always like to say, have a great vacation coming up sometime soon.
Love that.
That you're working towards, either just even paying for or planning on or whatever. But every time I go on vacation, I like to think of when my next vacation is going to be, so that I know what my next burst of work time is going to be hard and intense, but that's okay. Cause like, as I would say, I'm in project mode, or I'm, doing what I got to do now, but I always know the light at the end of the tunnel, is like, I have this time coming up and I'm going to do something really exciting. And then you always have something that you're looking forward to.
I love that. And I like to plan in 90-day cycles.
Yeah.
Because, if you plan like a year ahead, so much is going to change 12 months from now, right? So what are we focused on here and now, 90 days on executing? And I have implemented a quarterly break/vacation as well.
Me too. High five that, sister. I'm with you.
Highly, even if it's like just a short.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, for those who are listening who are going, oh my God, a quarterly vacation, that sounds amazing. And all that I would say, and questioning whether they could do that or not. First of all, I would say, obviously, it would be non-negotiable that you should be taking an annual something or the other. And then I really believe, and I know you do too, and it comes through a lot in your work in terms of having systems and management and scheduling and stuff like that, which obviously is flexible, but it's there to support you, which is about living an intentional life, right? And about really creating the lifestyle that you want. And as you create your business, you don't have to be a mad woman who works these crazy hours, who has absolutely no balance in their life. I know that, balance or harmony or whatever you want to call it is a core value for both you and myself. And we both have, marriages and families and loved ones and partnerships and community obligations and all that stuff that are just as important as, our business, although we love our businesses. And the only way to do all of those things is if we look at our life and say, this is how I want to approach it. And when I build my business, it's going to be built in a way that's conscious and intentional, where if you and we were on the same page about this, where every quarter, hey, we're doing something. It might be a staycation. It might be a local trip. But if I can pull it off, we're going to go somewhere where I don't need to clean up anything and I don't need to pay any bills or do any grocery shopping.
Yeah, grocery shopping. That's a big one.
Yeah, I love to cook, but I don't like having to go do the shop. It's like that thing every week. Oh, I got to go again to do the shop. I love the cooking because I like to be in control of eating healthy.
Good for you.
Anyways, we're just running away with this one. But let me just ask you. So, go ahead. You had something to say.
There's even a system to be set up there, though, right? Because I hate groceries, which my family does too. And even from a balance perspective, I look at more a flow. Yeah. Like my husband and I were just talking this weekend about all the priorities that I have, right? Family's a priority. Business is a priority. Photography business, another competing potentially priority. But I look at it as a state of flow. And then, so it's always kind of moving. I might work some nights after the kids go to bed, or there might be a night where I have to say, honey, I got to catch up, like just for my mental state of mind. But when you set up systems to support that, you can be in that space of flow, because there are things like groceries we don't have to worry about as much because we order them in from Amazon Pantry, everything that's processed. And there isn't as much process because we try to lean more towards the whole. But then all we have to do when we actually go to the grocery store is pick up the stuff that, the produce and the meats.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think there's tons of ways that women you know, whether they're entrepreneurs or just, you know, 9 to 5 women can be supported. And, you know, I want to talk more about that later because I think support is so important. You know, we're just balancing and juggling so many different things. But one of the things that you said that I just wanted to elaborate on and then segue on is, you know, is about that flow, right? So it's about being conscious. That's the way I look at it. One of my main goals in my work is to help people wake up, which to me, wake up is synonymous with being conscious, which means being alive and fully aware in the moments of your life so that life is not just happening to you, but that you feel like you really are in the driver's seat of your life and you are, I like to say, co-creating the life that you want, or creating the life that you want. I think so many people feel like whether it's work or relationships or whatever, that it just happens to them, you know, and that there's nothing they can do about it and they feel really out of control. And so a lot of what I like to encourage people to do is really just be in the moment, wake up, be, you know, how are you feeling? Is this feeling good to you? How many nights this week have you been working, or this month have you been working? When have you been practicing self-care? When did you go on the last date with your husband? You know, like, are you looking at these things in your life and taking toll and measuring, does this feel good to me? Is this the kind of life that I want to live? Do I feel like I'm showing fully up in all the ways that I want to show up? Or are there some adjustments that need to be made, which is totally fine. And like, I'm on a big ass project right now. So I'm working harder than I worked in a really long time. But you know what? I just took almost 3 months off this summer, you know? And so, but that was by design, both because I really needed it because I was on a big project, you know, before, but also because I knew I was coming into a big project push now, you know, and I was like, I need to figure out how to set up my business and my lifestyle so that, because I know for me personally, I like to push really hard and then I like to take a long break. That's the way that I get my energy. I go in big bursts and then I need to, you know, pull away and recharge. And so I just think the conversation around flow and awareness and really, you know, being conscious of whether you're feeling aligned with your life and things are unfolding the way you feel like they should, or whether you're feeling stuck is a great topic to talk about.
100% in agreement there. Like, and even you said the word feeling a few times, right? But tapping into being aware of that and constantly resetting, right, when it's off. And for people who have families, they have businesses, they have maybe a side hustle, like a lot going on. And we as women generally do. So safe to say that that's happening in a lot of people's lives. That how is this feeling? And if it doesn't feel good and you're not being, you know, for me, I feel really good and I get in a state of flow when I'm being really productive, right? So I notice when I'm just like spinning my wheels, I'm like, this isn't right. How do I get back to being productive and forward moving?
Right.
And then I ask myself that. I reflect with my husband. I reflect in community with some of my other, you know, and I also love that you said co-creating, because I think that there are so many different ways to look at that. But ultimately, I truly believe when we are in that place of a leadership and being very aware and intentional about what we're doing and co-creating from so many different angles, right? It's going to be a much better end game.
Yeah. When I talk about spirituality and self-care and soulful practices, the way that I like to talk about it is in a really open way, because I was raised an atheist and I didn't have any sense of God. My parents were full-time civil rights organizers, so they were out there fighting for justice, and the religion or belief systems that I was raised around were the same things people learn in church, but just it wasn't around God or Jesus or Muhammad or any particular, you know, person. It just was this, you know, be a good person, treat other people with kindness, help people, you know, all that kind of stuff, and speak up, be a leader for those who don't have a voice or don't feel comfortable using their voice. But all that to be said, now I'm in a place where I am I consider myself a spiritual person. I do believe in God in my own version of that. But the way that I like to talk about it and you know, encourage other people to talk about it is in a really open way, because I believe we all have different beliefs and it's beautiful. That's the way it's supposed to be. And I don't think we're supposed to subscribe to one thing. And I don't think everybody who's listening is supposed to go, oh yeah, Celia, that's exactly how I feel. You know, they could be like totally opposite, which to me is perfect. And so all that to be said is like all the stuff about lifestyle and everything, I think is really great to show all the diversity in the way that people approach things. And so for you, what does your, like when I say those things, self-care, spirituality, soulfulness, what does that translate to you? And what, like in terms of approaching your business or just your life in general, how does that come up?
Yeah, there is so much there. I'm experiencing and thinking of so much because I definitely consider myself to be a spiritual person. And conversely, I was raised, my family was Catholic, and my grandparents were Methodist. Actually, my grandpa was Catholic, but he ended up going to the Methodist church because my grandma was going to the Methodist church. So I really sort of tossed between those two. But as I grew up, I really resisted, probably because of the strict nature of the Catholic structure, really resisted the harsh structure that was put in place. And I almost felt, I believe more in the openness as well, because I felt a little bit like Judgy McJudgerson in some situations, and I'm so not Judgy McJudgerson. So I really believe in the openness. And as you were talking, whether it's a religion, whether it's just a belief system that you hold as a person, I feel like so many of those things that you described are human values, right? We all strive to support one another. There's kindness and compassion and that supersede really all denominations, right? So there's these common elements from a spiritual perspective, from Buddhism, Islam, like they show up across the world regardless, right, of where we're playing. So what I hope that people take away, right, isn't that I need to be one or I need to be the other, or I need to be more like that, or I need to be, but is that I can be myself and I can do my own thing. And whatever it is that I connect to is okay. And for me personally, I connect to certain things and I want to support other people and what they connect to. And from a business perspective, that may sometimes mean like, I'm not the right person for you to work with. Like I was talking to a client and friend just before this call, and I'm looking down at my notes because she said, you get down to business, Amber. Like as happy and as spiritual and as engaged as I am and as supportive as I am, and my brand is Nice Ops. Like, okay, so there's something there. But I also I want results. I want results in your business.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? I'm the exact same way. And people who work with me are always like, you hold my ass to the fire like nobody else. Like you make me get stuff done, that I would have never gotten done. Your accountability and your expectations of me following through are so high. But because of that, I get stuff done. So it's great that you do that for your clients.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's for my clients from an accountability perspective. And then it's also sometimes separating from the feeling. So as much as I say feel it, sometimes you also have to separate from it so you can go down that path. For example, right, sometimes it's going to be scary and new level, new devil. So I experience it again and again, but to put yourself out there in a certain way because you haven't done it before, or because, what will people think of me? Or am I doing it the right way? So sometimes you have to be aware enough to like, all right, I need to put that feeling of fear or that someone will judge me or what will people think or is this right aside so you can move forward. But having that awareness is key. And that's where community is so important, like being in a group like this so you can reach out to those people and get a little courage. Yeah.
No, I think what you're saying is so good. And, we all go through the same things. It's all about the same journey. And what I'm really wanting to encourage through these conversations is that, to me, taking care of yourself or taking the time to stay aligned, or if you feel off, taking the time to do what you need to do to get yourself back on, or creating business that feels really just amazingly like your voice, your vision. I don't know why it's making me cry right now, but I just feel like so many people, spend a lot of time in business not being themselves, and feeling like they really need to fit into a mold. And part of my passion is about, in particular, telling female entrepreneurs, like, screw that. Like, that's not true. You just need to show up and be vibrantly yourself. Not that you don't need to have system strategies, things in place to support your business so that you're a good business. But at the same time, you really need to figure out who you are, what you love, what your stories are, how you could be unique and authentic and fully alive in yourself, working in your zone of genius, like clearly you are, because this is like, your example is exactly what I want people to hear, which is you were doing this your whole life. These are things that were gifts of yours your whole life. These are things that were passions of yours your whole life, but you maybe didn't put it all together yet, right? You didn't figure out like, oh, this is the formula. It's going to all come together and boom, I'm going to have nice ops and I'm going to feel in flow and I'm going to feel like this was what it was all for. You didn't know that it was. And so I think a lot of people, even when they have an existing business, can feel really out of alignment. And like you said, you've had more than one business. I'm not a first-time entrepreneur. I was a first-time entrepreneur when I was 22 years old, you know, so I've already had a huge real estate business and some other businesses, but they weren't the ones, like they weren't where I was supposed to be. And so through whether it's daily rituals or routines or check-ins or conversations with God or whatever it's going to be, I think that's where you really find, are you on path? Are you on target? Does this, well, like you said, does this feel good? Am I also doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing to move forward in this journey to find that clarity, you know, and really, really going through that process. So I think it's so brilliant what you're talking about.
Yeah, you again have hit on so much good stuff. I couldn't find my pen. If anybody saw me looking for something, like, where the heck is my pen? So I don't forget to make a note on something. But in terms of self-care, hitting on that one, my self-care ritual is bananas right now. Because I've got a 5-month-old. So every couple of weeks, it's like, oh, now there are teeth. Oh, now we have a runny nose. So we're not sleeping, you know, whatever it is.
Right.
So it's a mess. And I feel that. And the most successful CEOs report again and again that they have a routine, they have ritual, and they have discipline. So I feel best also when I'm like waking up at 6 a.m. and making stuff happen, whether it's, I could be laying in bed reading, I could be coming down and getting on the bike, like whatever that is, but that ritual really helps me. But honestly, right now, it's terrible. And I feel that, and I know that I'll be in this space for a little while because I have a 5-month-old. So let's face reality, McCue. But I also know that there is light, and I'm going to move through this as gracefully as I can. And, right, so it's a place that I have to be, but it's getting me to the place where I want to be long-term, right? I want my family. I want business and family, right? So making those things work, but not feeling compelled to like have to have it perfect now, but going through it, the have to's. And you said something else too. Oh, shoot. So my self-care routine, I mean, I love green juice. I have to have a pitcher of water by my desk because otherwise I work too much and I don't get up and get my water.
You need
so there's some things
and get some circulation going.
Exactly. But it's hard. It really is hard, but it's essential that we play with that and figure those things out. Oh man. What?
I say genius things all the time. You know, another one will pop up and you'll be inspired. It's okay. You can let that thought go. But one of the things that you said was, and I think it's really interesting, is like self-care to me begins from the sense of worthiness, right? The sense of I am enough. I was, go, boom.
I remembered. So you were talking about people really being in their zone of genius and playing where they're supposed to be playing. And I wish we could say to people like, no, just do what you're supposed to do. Just be yourself. And it's that easy.
Right.
Because I think one of the hardest things is discovering, who am I? Who am I in this space? Who am I in this business?
Yeah.
What's the story I tell? What are the stories I focus on, right? So there's so much there. And actually just 3 weeks ago, I came across a website, and I won't say their names because I'm not going to put myself smack dab in comparison land. But when I went to their website and saw a launch they were doing, I'm like, that is the program I've been thinking of for 2 years. And one of my core values is differentiation.
Say that again, because we're getting a frozen screen here. Hold on a second, Amber.
Oh,
okay. Hold on. Take a minute. We lost you there. Say that again. You went to somebody's website and you didn't want to land in comparisonitisville, but we all have that, knee-jerk reaction of like, holy crap, they stole my idea. They did it first. What the hell?
idea. Exactly. So I looked at the website. I'm like, great. I am going to have to create something different because I have a core value of differentiation. And I don't recreate the wheel where you don't have to, but stand out and be you as you do it. And I stepped away from that and thought, no, you've done work on this. It's your thing to do. And it is going to be different because I have a strongly different point of view than these people.
And it's you. That's what makes it different. It's you and your persona and your vibe and your, viewpoint.
Exactly. And I have a different history. I have a different way of teaching. I definitely have different things to teach, even though on the surface, right, the modules that were outlined in their courses look very similar. I'm like, there's no way they're going to teach this. Like, I'm going to teach it. They're going to teach something else. Like, they're going to teach it. So it took me actually, that was a pretty fast realization. It was within an hour. I'm like, no, you are going to do this. This has been on your plate. This has been on your mind. If not you, like who, and if not when. So I started putting those plans in motion. But in the past, I probably would have stepped away from that and thought, oh, somebody else is doing it. But when you start to push yourself that, no, you really should be doing that thing, right? So when you see yourself in comparison land and you get stuck there and it doesn't feel good and it feels unhealthy, like move out and separate and evaluate maybe why, and sometimes shut down, don't look at them, but other times, no, you should be doing that thing, right? So that's a funny place to begin.
So we all, and I love this conversation. It's come up in some of the other people that I've been speaking to.
Good.
I mean, it's a really popular conversation around comparing yourself to other people, or feeling like if they've already done it, how can I do it? How can I do it differently? And I think that it's great for all of us, no matter what level you are in business, to say, I see other people all the time that and it's totally that thing of you stumble upon them, right? Yeah. It's not somebody you're following. It's like some random person that you're like, wait, I didn't even know they existed. I thought that I had the share in this lane I was going to dominate this field,
Right.
And find somebody else. And then all of a sudden now you're finding more people, and then you're like, wait a minute, maybe, this is getting saturated. And I think a lot of people, especially coaches or authors or speakers or trainers or online entrepreneurs, feel like, God, so many people are doing what I want to do. How can I separate myself? And I think all the things that you brought up are really great, because it's really what I try and teach is it's really about how your differentiating factor is you, right? It's all about you. It's not about the content. The content, most of us are teaching things that we learned from somebody else. It's not like we or through life experience or through education or reading books or whatever. Some people, and all of us, hopefully in our lifetime at some point in time, will have some, reinvent the wheel, brand new concept that fell from heavens, and be like, this was my baby and nobody ever created it before me. But most of the time you are learning a lot of different things. You're practicing a lot of different things. You're implementing them in your business. And then you start to see, this really supported me. I think this really worked. I'm going to take a little of this, a little of that, a little of this. You blend it together with your own personality, your own flavor, your own ideologies. And then you create your own program, and it's okay, and I think what you're saying is so good, because a couple years ago, I landed upon a website where I literally fell to my knees and started crying, and I was like, oh, holy, all the words that I can't say right now, but I was so defeated. And it was terrible. And then I called my sister, God love her. And I was like, look, go to this website right now. Look at this website. Can you believe that she is doing this? I'm like, how is this possible? I'm like, this is me, what is she doing? This is my stuff, I'm like, somebody else has already done it and it has more money than I do, is more established already in their business. And as far as I can tell, is probably doing it better than I could ever do it. Right. That was the self-talk that I was having in my head. And luckily my sister was so amazing. And she's like, yeah, I see her. She's like, she's all right. He's just like, but you're pretty awesome. And I think you seem really different, actually. And let me tell you about why you're different. And also remember, she's like steps ahead of you, Celia. And look at how far you've come already. And, you know, you're like on this path. And, you know, and so she just pumped me up with all the things that I already knew. So that was one of my first experiences with that. But I think now, like you said, you start to get the tools where when you have those moments, we're still all going to have those moments where we see somebody that we think is amazing and you know, we're feeling self-doubt. But now instead of going to that place, I've replaced it with the conversation, which is, first of all, you don't believe in scarcity and lack. You don't believe that there's only enough room for one person to live their dream. That is in direct opposition to your belief system. You believe in abundance and that there's enough for all of us to go big and as big as, you know, we're supposed to go. So screw that. Secondly, you see somebody doing something that you think is amazing, that to you, like you said, that's like a ding, 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 ding. I'm supposed to be doing that. There's something about that that calls to me so deeply at a soul level that I can't deny that I'm really attracted to this kind of work. Now, I've looked at 50 other websites. None of them had this reaction. I go to this one website, whether it's the colors or the images or the fonts or the offerings, whatever the heck it is, there's something here that I should be paying attention to because I'm really drawn to. And then, you know, down the line, like what I'm doing is all about collaboration anyways, you know? So it's like, cool, you do that and you be in your lane. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to be in my lane. Before you know it, we might be hosting events together. We might, you know, be cross-promoting. We might be doing affiliate. You never know. So I just think it's such a good conversation because it still happens. But, and just because I'm on a tangent, let me just finish this last thought, which was, it's about the self-talk. Right? And that's where the self-care comes in, is you're saying to yourself, I'm right now have a 5-month-old. You know, I can't do all the self-care that I want to do, but that's okay. That's okay. You're telling her that's okay, Amber. You know what? You're great at your work. You're a great mom. And this is for a period in time and you're going to be all right, you know? And so you're being gentle with yourself. You're being loving with yourself. Instead, you could be like, you know, what are you doing? You're not taking care of yourself. You're letting your business fall apart. You're not going as big as you could be, or you're not a good enough mom, or, you know, whatever the conversations that we could be saying. So I think like the foundation of self-care, getting back to self-worth, self-love, filling your own tank, and that conversation in your head about, you know, you're enough, you're good, you're, you know, all is well.
Yeah, it is. And it's so hard to believe sometimes when you're in, you know, that space.
Totally.
So figuring out, and like I said, it took me a while to get out of comparison lane in a healthy way more quickly. So, you know, it might take 5 days the first time, 4 days the next time, you know, eventually it'll trim back, and as you get closer and closer to exactly where your zone of genius is. But once you are there, like nobody else compares, right? So then eventually you'll be like, no, okay, no, it only took me an hour this time. That's my thing. Like I am closer.
Yeah, it's so cool. So is there anything that we haven't talked about that you feel like you really want the audience to know, either about, you know, this is really behind the scenes and not so much business specific strategy, because I know we'll get into that in a different way at another time, but just stuff about women in business and about balancing and spirituality and any goodness that we haven't touched upon that you feel like, oh my God, these are some gems that I just want to drop on this audience?
Yes. A couple of things. One thing that we talked about in the comparison lane was there's an awesome book by Lewis Schiff. The name of the book is Business Brilliant. He writes for Inc. magazine and is the executive director of their Owners Council. And he researched the difference between self-made millionaires and billionaires and the middle class. And not that everyone wants to be a self-made billionaire. I don't have billionaire on my vision board yet, but maybe that'll come. I'm open to it. I am open to that possibility. But he compares, and the mindsets are so different. And one of the things that self-made millionaires and billionaires do again and again is they don't focus on, oh, I have to be different. Everything has to be different. They imitate over innovation, right? So don't recreate the wheel and don't feel like you have to. But again, stand out and be different enough so you can differentiate yourself in the market. So people are drawn to you right? So there's a lot there. That book just has so many amazing tidbits. So I definitely recommend that for anyone who wants to move the needle in terms of their shifting their mindset in those ways. The other thing, that came up as a result of that, oh man alive, I wish I had my pen. The stinking baby brain. That's real. Oh, the other thing, women.
Yeah.
We take a lot on and we have a lot going on. So I would echo sort of being gentle, reaching out. And I, again, practice what you preach so you can preach what you practice. I have to practice these things myself. So I say them, but they're things that I truly do practice. I mean, even systems, the cobbler's children have no shoes sometimes, like constant working, refining. They're not exactly where I want them to be, but I can whip them up for my clients, no problem, right? So being gentle and remembering that if things get hard or if things feel uncomfortable, you're likely moving to a new level. So cut yourself some slack and really celebrate, like, oh, this is a little bit uncomfortable. All right, I'm moving into a new space. What do I need to shift from a mindset perspective, from a ritual perspective, routine, self-care, relationships, communication with my family? Like almost do a little self-care and personal systems process audit as you feel that discomfort. So you know, like, all right, here's what I need to change to make this discomfort and moving into this new space easier. And it gets easier every time, right?
That's so good. I love that. I mean, I'm glad to say I do that. That's one of my strengths. But yeah, it's like every next new stretch, right? Because it's always some new stage. It's not like you push hard and then you arrive and you're like, woo, piece of cake, got it here.
I'm done. Never.
Like I was working out every other day and I was doing yoga and that felt really good. But now, you know what? I have some new opportunity and that schedule's not going to work anymore, but I still want to be able to get off in time to see my kids. So how am I going to do it? It's always a constant evolution and just, it's really good. It's really good. It's just all this stuff about continuing to assess, continuing to be intentional, to realize that you can create what you want. Life does not happen to you. Your business does not happen to you. If you're listening and you're feeling like, oh my God, this sounds so good and I'm really off track. Well, hey, there's a starting point right in front of you. Just sit down. If I were you, I'd watch the video all over again and start to take some notes, because I think a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is just foundational to every aspect of life, which is, think about the lifestyle that you want. Think about the business that you want. How much do you want to be working? What kind of projects do you want to have going at one time? What kind of exercise and self-care are you going to want to do? And whatever your next 90 days is, like you said, okay, what's the schedule that, it doesn't need to be hard, and rigid, but what's sort of my ideal scenario schedule and what kind of support do I need to make this happen, right? That was one thing that I wanted to loop back around is the support, because I joke around where I'm like, every week I send my husband an email and I'll be like, honey, this is the schedule for the week, and I'll go through each and every day. And if there's anything that I want to do, whether it's like go out to something at night or, go see a girlfriend or whatever it is, I'll put it on the schedule and I'll be like, are you good with this? Does the schedule look good to you? Is there anything that you'd like to add? And then he'll either add or say it's fine. And then I'm like, once he says yes, we're golden. And so then when we come up on those days when it is time for me to go, I'll be like, yeah, babe, don't forget to get the kids, remember? And he might be like, what's that? What are you talking about? And I'll be like, remember, I sent you it was on the schedule. You already approved it.
I love that. And then you're proactive and nobody can beat you up for that. Oh. And then that gives me control and power back too. I'm like, nope. We talked about this. Yeah. It's written down over here. Everybody saw it.
It keeps it really black and white because I don't want to get into negotiation or, like a big conversation about our schedules. I'm like, just, over years of being with somebody, but this is one of my little tools in my back pocket that I like to share is like, cut out all of the negotiation. Just say what basically getting back to the support. Ask for what you want.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And going back to that, and you mentioned if people are like, oh, I feel like I might need to, figure this out or change some things up. I literally do this exercise myself. what makes me feel really good and feel really productive, because that's a space I like to be in. And it could just be productive, spending time with my families. Like sometimes that's my flow. But what makes me feel good and what does not make me feel good. And I just sort of monitor for a weekend or a week or maybe a couple of weeks, like what's working, what's not. And I literally have taken that to my husband and said, here's what I need to do to feel good. And here's what I don't like to do. And here's what makes me feel really icky. And he's like, all right, well, let's make sure you're doing more things from the feel good list and buy in, like co-create, right? It applies in so many different ways. And we co-create my solution. So when I'm not getting up at 6 a.m. because I was up from 3 to 5, I'm like, really, I need that. I need that time. Can you take her? And he gets it, right? So we buy in. And then the other thing that's key to like getting people to buy in is what's in it for him. Yeah. And I'm cranky pants when things get out of balance. So we want a harmony in the household, which he gets. And we've had a lot of years working on that. So slow change management. But now like, oh yeah, okay. And he's working a little bit of the magic back on me. Like we had some conversations this weekend. He's like, here's what I need.
I love that though. I love that you're modeling for him. Yeah. I'm sure he models for you in a lot of other ways. I mean, it's a partnership, it's not like it's a one-sided relationship, but in terms of the work that you do in the world and the work that I do in the world, like you said, I practice what I preach. I live the life that I want other people to live. It's not perfect. It doesn't always come together, but I really try and keep pushing myself to show up and be my best in the ways that I can. But then I'm also modeling for my family those principles and those strategies and the way that I approach my lifestyle too. And so then when I see it loop back around, when my husband or my kids reflect it back to me in their own version of it, oh my God, there's nothing like that.
And it's funny because sometimes they'll model things back. They're like, oh no, I didn't want you to do that. Oops.
Right. Honey, I'm going out right now with the boys, okay? I need to practice some self-care. I feel like I need a little bit of a breather.
I love it.
No, that's not okay. Well, you and me, my sister, we can go on and on. I mean,
love this. I hope this is helpful for people.
It has to be helpful because it's real life. That's how I like it. Real talk, real women, real life. I think we can all relate to it. So tell everybody where they can find you, how they can follow up with you, get on your list, maybe join your community, find you on Facebook, all that good stuff.
Definitely. You can find me over at niceops.com, NICEOPS. And actually, if anyone's thinking about being more efficient in their business, if they sign up and hop in there, they can get in on, there's a workshop called the Get Efficient Prioritization Workshop. But they can break down, what do I need to be doing? Where do I need to systematize? What do I need to keep doing? And just get rid of it. Don't even do it anymore. So those are some, I love looking at that. When I can cut stuff off my list, happy camper. So that might be fun for people, but totally reach out in any way. I'm on Facebook. You can email me at amber@ambermccue.com. I also value intimacy, and I know we're talking about some deep stuff here. So however I can support people, bring it on.
Awesome. And can you spell your name one more time?
Yeah, Amber McCue, MCCUE, and it's amber@ambermccue.com.
Yay. All right. Love you, girl. This is
you
awesome.
Too. Thank you. You're a blast.
Bye.